talking
Certainly.
to Randall Stands with Bear, and you're in Sedona, Arizona, correct, Randall?
Yes, I am. It's Rendell, by the way. But
Randall.
just actually, I don't even go by that. The only reason I have my name there is because Facebook won't let me put anything else other than that. So, but I actually go by StandswithBear. That's all I ever go by
Okay,
now.
so
Yeah.
we'll use Stands with Bear.
In Ireland,
And let's go through that, because I'm in a city here. I live in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, and we have 10%. We refer to Aboriginal, like you use Native, we use Aboriginal, but 10% of the city here is. So what? How does this name thing work? Like in terms of when you get a name like you have, is that chosen at birth, and how does that determine?
actually, I was in a place in my life when, that one place where things are just wrecked and you're just like push everything off of the table and say, you and me, pal, that's it. And that's when magic really starts, when you push away everything and just listen. And so I had a friend that invited me out to Colorado, to Wildwood, Colorado.
Okay.
And there's a thing called Bear Mountain out there. And she invited me to a sweat lodge. And the elder we did a very powerful sweat, like 4-hour warrior sweat. And there were about 12 of us, and it was 20 stones strong. So if anybody knows anything about sweat, whew, that's a sweat.
Wow.
But right next to us was a river. So the minute we came out, I just head first,
Yeah.
But the next morning I asked him, I said, Grandfather, I'd like to get my ceremonial name and I want to do it the right way. Can you help me out? And he goes, of course. He goes, meet me on the mountain at 4:00. So I made the trek to the mountain, and we began our climb. And about halfway up, he stops and he says, I cannot go any further. Your journey is your own. And I was like, okay. So I kept going. And when I reached the top, it was like this flat area.
Okay.
And it's really interesting, Grant, because I was like, it's almost like a director was hiding behind the trees going action, because when I got on my knees and I started praying, the birds came out, the sun came, it hit me in the face. It was like, it was a beautiful day. It was like something out of a Disney movie, and I had this really powerful vision. And I ended up going back down, saw the elder, and he looks at me, he goes, you had a vision? I go, yes, I did. And I said, Grandfather, I have to ask you something. He said, yeah, sure, anything. And I said, is it possible for a mountain to give you your name? He smacks my arm. He goes, how do you think we get our names? And I was like, okay, I didn't know. And he goes, what name did she give you? And I said, StandswithBear. And he said, good name. And I had my ceremony that day. So I did it the right way. Got my name.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so how does the whole, like your bio talks about music, which is, of course, I guess maybe where we should start, where you and I are both going to be at a conference in Sedona. And let me pull up the screen for people so they sort of know. I'm going to take over the screen here, I hope.
Yeah, this is our 4th annual one. We've done 4 of them. Well, this will be the 4th one this year. First time we had Corey Good. The second time was Grandfather Golden Light Eagle. And then, of course, the third one was Elizabeth and David Wilcott.
Okay.
This year is going to be Randy Kramer, that's with Gaia TV.
Okay.
So it's a lot of the same people. They're going to be there. We have our standbys with Team Light, myself, my beloved Rion Jerome, Alex Mazzone, and my big sis, Devara Thunderbeat. My brother from another mother, Clifford Mahooty, is going to be there.
Oh, yeah, I know Clifford.
And, yeah, just a lot of really great people. Some guy named Grant Cameron, I don't know who that is.
Yeah. And I'm doing music, and you're doing. Let's go through your presentation. What do you? You're going to do music, I guess, and maybe some wisdom.
Well, I'm playing with Thunderbeat. She has her band that she, we jam a song, and normally at all the conferences, I have performed first to kind of set the tone, and then I come out and speak. But this time I'm not going to do that. And what's really interesting, Grant, is people always ask me, how do you get up there and not have a script, not have bullet points, just go? And I just I close my eyes and I just, it's literally the same way I play flute. People ask, how do I play flute so well? I put the flute to my lips and the breath of God comes out.
Wow.
That's how I play. And so I just close my eyes and I become the conduit. And in native way, we say hollow bone, which can be filled with much, right? So becoming the conduit, whether to do my healings, whatever it is, I'm just that conduit. You know, people are like, oh, you're an amazing healer. No, what comes through me is amazing, but it's just being that conduit. So what I do is and I've been kicking around the planet for a while, about over 10,000 incarnations. So I got a few things under my belt, you know, that I've been doing. So when I get up there this year, I never know what I'm going to speak at or speak about. You know, most people have it ahead of time, and I very rarely do. I don't use a podium. I don't use it. I like to roam at the
Yeah.
room when I'm on stage, and I love to be interactive with my audience. I think that's a very important thing, to be interactive with them. But this year is going to be, I have a few things, few tricks up my sleeve I want to talk about. I want to give some people some techniques for healing the planet. I want to talk a little bit about the Mandela effect and how the timelines are just really starting to intersect with each other. And there's all kinds of information out there about that. And you see it every day around you. And, you know, it's shocking to me to have gone to the Statue of Liberty in 1981, and it was on Ellis Island. That's what I remember, Ellis Island. But if you look up the Statue of Liberty today, Ellis Island is a whole separate island, and they're on a whole different island, right? You know, the Statue of Liberty is right here on a different island. What? It's just mind blowing. I mean, you know, you're a historian. Have you ever heard of the Great Wall of India? I've never heard of the Great Wall of India. But sure enough, if you Google it, it's got pictures from like when it first was built, people having selfies on the wall, and I'm just going, how, what? Great Wall of China, that's a given, but it's bizarre. You know, it's like the timelines are just like right on top of each other and starting to merge. And so highly recommend people start looking up about the Mandela effect, because it's a very real thing. And
so explain to that to people. Like I just had some conversations a couple of days ago about that. So for people that may not understand what the Mandela effect is, explain to them in sort of in layman's term what we're talking about, because it's kind of a weird concept unless you have seen it.
Well, here's one thing I'm going to do to prove the Mandela effect in real time when I go to the conference. I'm going to ask the audience, how many people, and I want you to raise your hand, how many people remember how many people were in the car in the JFK assassination? Like if I ask you, how many were in the car?
I would say 4.
4, exactly. Connolly, the governor, the driver, the president, and his wife.
Yeah.
It's always been like that. If you go back to the Zapruder films, that's what you see. But now, in this timeline, when you Google it, there's an extra set of 2 people in the car, and there's bulletproof glass between the president and those now 4 people in the car. Number one, there was no such thing as bulletproof glass back then.
Wow.
And number 2, it wasn't a big old stretch limo. It was a smaller vehicle, and there are 4 people in the car. But sure enough, the actual Zapruder film has been completely altered. Now, I get psyops that certain powers be can do and stuff like that, but this is one hell of a psyop to be able to like just change everything on the scope of the entire internet. And you're having people that have had the family Bibles for years, and they freak out when they go to it and they see things changed. How do you change somebody's own Bible in their own house if this isn't true? You used to have the lion laid with the lamb. I remember that because I was raised Catholic. The lion lay with the lamb. Look in the Bible now, it says the wolf laid with the lamb.
Wow.
So these things are being altered in our timeline. I just put up on my Facebook 2 different powerful videos by a gentleman named Chris. I hope I say his name right. Anata, I believe his last name is. And the guy's amazing. He's a quantum a businessman. And he put up 2 different videos on it that has a lot of detail that's truly mind-blowing. And I've been hearing about this place called Tartaria. Have you heard of that?
No.
Tartaria was an empire that was here long, long ago that's been erased from history. It extended all the way from Europe, all the way into Asia. And a lot of those star forts that you hear about that are all over the planet
Yeah.
were markers of the territory of Tartaria. And they were military areas that were guarding that specific area.
Okay.
And all the buildings like Notre Dame, some of the major buildings in Germany, a lot of the colleges, the big, huge structures that you see, that we no longer have the ability to build that, like the history has been lost. The architectural feats have been lost.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's because it was a race of beings that was very highly advanced. So what happened is they were wiped out, and then the other guys just moved in. So those buildings were never built by who they say they were built by. They're just Tartarian former complexes. And he talks about that in the video too, about the empire. You can Google it, Tartaria. They have a flag, they have a history. And you know, as a historian, I'm sure you probably figured out by now, we've been lied to about our whole history.
Yeah.
I mean, 100%. And why is that? Because those who win the war write the story. So it's basically, man, it's like Illuminati 101, you know, they've been doing it for centuries, you know, wipe the history, indoctrinate the children into the new narrative, the new history, and so on, and so on, and so on for like centuries. They've been doing that. You know, they always have the same playbook. That's why we always kick their collective arses, so to speak, because they use the same damn playbook. They don't deter from it. They're like, horse with blinders.
Yeah.
That's all they know. You know, so
wow.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned the Earth, and my other associate who usually does interviews with me, Sinead, is very connected to Earth, and the natives are very connected to Earth. So can you talk about this time in history and how you see it and why this is so important? Because a lot of people I don't think really catch on.
Here's what I remember. I remember that it's actually my book. I wrote a book. It's on Amazon. Apparently, you have to advertise your book to make sales.
Well, then let's have the name of it, because I didn't know that either.
I'm discovering that. You know, I thought, okay, contracts fulfilled and go. You know, it doesn't work like that, apparently. So the name of the book is called Now is the Time.
Okay.
And it's by StandswithBear. And it has all the way from Atlantis to extraterrestrial activity and stuff like that. I wrote it like 20 years ago.
Wow.
And I planned on putting it out, and I kept trying to put it out, And my guides, my star families, no, wait. Like, no, wait. And then just a few years ago, my father Ashtar, I was talking to him, and he said, we want you to put the book out now. I go,
wow.
Oh, now? 20 years later, now you want me to put it out? And he goes, what's the name of the book? And I said, Now is the Time. He's like, so here's what I gathered from that. If that book would have been put out then, it would have been for no purpose, no reason, because the collective consciousness was not ready for that as a whole.
Yeah.
It had to go for so many years, because universal spectrum is about timing. It's all about timing, 100% specific. And so that's why it was supposed to come out when it came out. And so it's called StandswithBear, Now is the Time. My beloved's beautiful artwork is all through it. It's all full color.
Wow.
And you can get it on Kindle for like $8. So
wow.
It's a pretty good deal.
I'm going to check it out, because I mean, I've seen the artwork that your better half is doing, and it's like spectacular. Now, how does it tie into the Earth? Is there a message that we need to listen to?
Well, let me explain the dynamic of when I created the book, okay? I grew up in Flag, not that far from here. And, you know, so I've been coming here my whole life. And back and forth, they keep bringing me back here. I'd leave, go to California, Hawaii, but I ended up coming back here over and over and over until finally I'm staying. You know, Lightstar, my beloved, and I, we look at this place as a college. And we're deciding, you know, we've now graduated that college. Are we going to be the professors that have tenure here? Or are we going to move on and teach out in the rest of the world? And I guess Sedona still wants us here, so we're still here. Because this place is very magical, Grant.
Oh yeah.
I've seen this place spin cycle people out like that. If you're not at the vibrational frequency that you need to be at to be able to stay here, you'll get spin cycled out quick.
Yeah, Sedona is a unique place. In fact, it's the, when you get to the Rendlesham Forest with the code, it's one of the places. I remember being there looking for this code, running around with people, and it's a unique place. Maybe explain a little bit for people who don't know Sedona. I mean, it is like a really, almost a mystical place that's set up for this kind of stuff. It's like, everybody's doing this kind of stuff. It's like almost like a consciousness place where people are at a different level. It's a different place.
There's collectively more starborn than there is any place in the world. That's why this is called the City of Light. This is literally the place of the gathering. You know that song, All My Exes Live in Texas?
Yeah.
I have to say all my exes live in Sedona. I've met more of my ex-wives from past lives in this city than, woo, yeah, it's crazy. You meet lots of friends here that you've known for a long time. But I'm gonna talk more about Sedona. But right now I'm gonna digress to the original question about with the native coming here and stuff like that. A native have always believed and known that our ancestors come from the stars.
Yeah.
Okay, but you have different sectors of native tribes who all have their own story. You have the Hopis that had the ant people that took them underground, and you have very similar stories throughout all the tribes. And
you're Cherokee, right?
Yeah, 25% Cherokee. I'm actually German, Irish, Scot, Welsh, English, Nordic, and Cherokee.
Oh, you go.
It's like God said, be something, right? And I mean, in all intents and purpose, I actually, could get money for the government for my 25%, but I really want nothing to do with that. I make my own way. That's how I've always been.
Yeah.
But so the Tibet, certain areas of China, all through the world, Mongols, all that, they're all children of Atlantis, all of them. The refugees that from that time period. And what I remember, because I remember being Atlantis, I was a geneticist, and I was also one of the ones that helped to program the record keeper crystals. Okay, you know what those are, right?
Wow, yeah. You talk to me about, well, you got to talk about crystals, because I follow crystal stuff. I mean,
me too.
So are crystals used to store energy, or not energy, but information?
Well, to be honest, if it wasn't for crystals, you wouldn't have TV. We wouldn't be talking through the screen right now and having this conversation. It can store multitudes of information. I mean, just even a small one. But the misgivings that people understand about crystals is they are a live entity. They're not just a stone. It's just they vibrate at such a very rapid and high frequency, but they are literally sentient beings, and you can feel their energy and you can tap into that. And with record keeper crystals, as you know, through history, many of the histories have just been laid to waste, like the great library that Rome just completely decimated. And it's been like that over and over. You just had a case, 10 something years ago, when the factions of ISIS were blown off the faces of like ancient statues and stuff.
Yeah.
It all is the same modus operandi: destroy the old history and reclaim it as your own, and then train the children of your narrative for the future. And it's been like that over and over and over. And until we stop that, we're going to have this perpetual machine that keeps grinding out the same crap every single century, every single lifetime, every generation.
So how do we stop it?
Well, it's already in the progress. That's why it's starborn in here. We're like God's plan B. Starborn are they're human, in human form, but their soul is not from here. They came from many worlds away. You see them everywhere. You can see them when they look in the eyes. They're not like everybody else. They have gifts. They have abilities. We have those gifts and abilities that are ingrained within us, right? So you have Atlantis, but even before Atlantis, there were other civilizations. There's been so many different civilizations here that we just lost count. I mean, imagine, because all that sand you see in Egypt was once tropical. It was all tropical. And it always cracks me up. You're going to love this as a historian. It cracks me up that they can't understand how the pyramids look so similar to each other, and they're clear across the planet.
Yeah.
Because Doughhead, it used to be one whole continent, and then it broke up in pieces and kind of moved away from each other. That's what, you know, so the pyramid, your neighbor's going, wow, that's pretty cool. I think I'm going to make one of those, you know. It's so that, you know, that's why, because they were so close, and it was like, it's almost like they were just like families within families. They weren't, it wasn't a separate thing.
Yeah.
They just discovered in I think it's Guatemala, with some technology they have for doing like radar lasering, where they can map out the land.
Yeah.
I think it was like something like 60,000 structures that were hidden in the jungle.
Wow. Yeah.
That's like all, you know, the I guess Mayan, Aztec.
Yep.
And you know, I've always said, we think we know so much about our planet. We've yet to even discover everything that's here, and including within our bodies. And so I'm gonna digress back for a second. So here's what I remember of Atlantis. I remember the rings that it showed. Plato originally it showed the rings, right? And there's, each one of those was separated. There's like a swatch of land here, 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 here. You have the go-betweens that came here. All the go-betweens were for the ships to come in, the vessels, right? Because at that time we had complete autonomy of air, water, and land, right? And the misconception a lot of people forget is they think that Lemuria and Atlantis were in two different times. They weren't, because they used to trade with each other all the time.
Okay.
You know, now I heard that there was a war that happened a long time because of that, but then later on peace, because I believe there's one royal married another over here in peace. But what I remember is each one of those parts of land, each swatch of that land, was a completely different race. It was called the Great Experiment. And it was Pleiadian, Vegan, Syrian, Arcturian, like all these different races that were exchanging knowledge and wisdom and technology, art, philosophy. You know, it was like this huge experiment to live under basically the same tent. And from what my father Ashtar explained to me, this was the precursor to what is called the Galactic Federation. And I've had a lot of people tell me I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, but you know what? You can't take another's experiences away from them.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, each one has their own unique experiences, and each one has their own unique tell. And shame on you if you put them down for their own experiences. Yeah, because I see so many people blue in the face screaming at others going, this is real, I'm not crazy, this happened to me, you know. And they're like, yeah, okay, smoke another one. You know, nobody, I mean, how can you?
Even so who are you being guided by? Who are your sort of higher people that are guiding you?
I'm one of the commanders with the Ashtar Command, and don't really care if anybody believes it or not. But if it's benefiting your life and it's helping you, see, the way I look at it, if you're doing things that are not correct, the universe will show you that, and things will fall apart. But if things are going in a smooth motion, that means you're on the right path. Like deja vu is simply markers. It's a gift, truly. When you get deja vu, that's a marker for you to remind you, okay, this is the right path. Here's the marker for you. Go and you have it again, there's a marker. Because you're like, I've seen this before. Yes, you have. It's a marker for you to remember and embed it into you so that you can see that you are on the right path.
I've got a lot of synchronicities. You have the synchronicities as well?
Absolutely. A lot of synchronicities.
Yeah.
I think the books that really changed my life, number one was Brad Steiger, Star People. You know, back when you were an original OG and you did all that. Brad and Sherry Steiger, Star People. That changed my life. You know, when I read that book, everything in my life made sense, because up to that point it made no sense whatsoever. And that little questionnaire, I checkmarked every single one of them.
Oh, wow. I remember the questionnaire, yeah.
Yeah, and so that was one thing. And then when Celestine Prophecy came out by James Redfield, mind blowing. You know, newsflash, I don't think it was a story. I think it really happened. And to protect the innocent,
Yeah.
you know, rewrote the names and everything like that because it's so, when you listen to the story, it's so real to you.
Yeah.
It's almost undeniable. I mean, there's good writers. I'm a writer, you know, but there's good writers, but then there's truth. And the heart knows between
Yeah.
an actor and writing and truth. And when I read that, I was like, holy crap, somebody's spitting out some serious knowledge right now.
Yeah.
This is like, this is a real deal. So that was another book that absolutely changed my life. And Way of the Peaceful Warrior, you know, so there's little markers that different masters of the world that provided for us to get us to where we are today as Starborn. And I always tell all my clients, all my Starborn, that how glorious is it that you're here right now, because you get to be here and witness everything we worked for centuries so hard for to come to fruition. And you get to be front row and center and watch all of it unfold. If that's not glorious, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
So I am so honored to be here and to do what we do. I got the greatest boss in the world. You know, can't get a better boss than that. And the benefits, whoo, you know.
Yeah.
So
you're right. I call it the
yeah.
Super Bowl. I say you got to realize you're in the Super Bowl of all stories.
Absolutely.
And you should say thank you 3 times every day that you got to play the game.
You're
a lot of
not
people
kidding.
are walking around in total, you know, living lives of quiet desperation, have no idea what's going on. You
Like-
got to know, but then I think you probably agree that with great knowledge comes great responsibility.
Yes, it does. Indeed. And, you know, I've said this before in my conferences, but men and women of renown were not born that way. They weren't even created. The men and women of renown are the ones that stood up when nobody else would. They're the ones that people are going, I'm not doing it. You know, they're the ones that go, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And they stood up and they did it when nobody else would,
Yeah.
thus becoming the men and women of renown. So quite simply, that's what you all need to do. All you Starborn out there listening to me right now, you think you came here for a vacation? I'm Indigo. And one of the things we do as Indigo, make sure you guys are doing your job, because you did come here for a job.
Good for you.
Remember the contract signed right here? Yeah. Yeah. You know, this place, Grant, to me is like the story of Pinocchio, where Pinocchio and his friends, they ran away from home, and they found that carnival just out of nowhere, and they're playing the games, they're eating the treats, and they're doing all of that, and they've only think they've been there maybe an hour or two, and come to find out a whole year transpired. They were lost in it, and that's what this place does to you. Look, the bigger, better sports team. Ooh, look at the fancy car. Ooh, nice watch. Oh, Lady Gaga. You know, I mean, it's like distract.
Yeah.
And so we have little things that come about to remind us of who we are. And inevitably, now they don't have a choice to be reminded who they are, because the waves that are coming in, all the cosmic energy and the waves are coming in, it's waking people right and left. And you're either going to be able to handle it, or you're going to spin cycle like a chicken with its head cut off and not know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
So it's important to be up to that vibrational frequency, because as you know, everything in life is about vibration and frequency.
Right on.
That's why people, when they hear my music, they're like, how is it possible I can hear your music many times, and one day I put it on and I'm listening and I hear a whole different level that wasn't there before? Because I create in frequencies. I create harmonic frequencies. So like some of my tracks, I have 72 tracks, and other musicians like, that's crazy. Why do you have so many tracks? Because it's in layers. Where most people would create like all the bass, all the guitar, all the drums, like in one line, I'll create a snippet of the drum line, and then I add a completely different drum line in that, and then I'll add a different keyboard part, and then throw that in the violin. You know, I'm like a little mad scientist. I'm like,
wow,
you know, my work. And then when you hear the song and it's all come together, you know, it's I'm guided to do it 100%. You know, I have to admit, I was at Red Mountain Studios in Phoenix probably about 14 years ago, I think it was 12 years ago. I was doing my CD called Ancient Heart, and I went in there and I just do what I do. Like I have this guidance that works with me. I hear the voice and it works with me. I'll sit down at the keyboard and I hear D8. And I'm like, okay, so I know they're talking about the bank. So I put D8. Ah, that's what I'm looking for. And I play a little something. And then I hear C28. I hit C28 and it harmonizes perfectly with what I just did.
Wow.
Right. And the producer is like, has his arm folded and he's just pacing the floor back and forth, just pissed. I'm like, what's wrong? What are you so upset about? And he's like, he's shaking his finger at me. He goes, young man, I've been doing this for over 35 years. I've done the Allman Brothers, the Doobie Brothers, and this long list of all these
Wow.
famous people. He goes, there's a certain methodical way of creation that's always been. Bass player comes in, does all the tracks. Drummer comes in, does all the tracks. Guitarist, singer, so on. Over 35 years, that's just the way it's always been done. He goes, but you, sir, have the most unorthodox way of creation I have ever seen. You're literally creating in real time in my studio. You're over here playing a little piano, then you're jumping in and playing a little drum. You're in the booth. You're back over here playing flute, and you're bouncing around in my studio in real time. And I can't figure it out, but somehow it just works.
Wow.
And I just went. And he's like, I believe, you know. So yeah, that's the dynamic I do when I create. I just
so in music, we'll put at this point we'll put in a clip. You've asked for a certain piece of music that we're just to give people an idea of what you play. But you've got what, five CDs that you've done?
Yeah, I've got In Love of My Ancestors, which is probably the most native one that I have because I did it in honor of my Cherokee ancestry. The second was nominated twice at the Native E Music Awards for Best Instrumental of the Year and Best Creative Vision category. The third is called Return to Zen. The only one I suggest do not drive with. You will not end up at your destination. Okay. It's very meditation-y. And then, of course, I have Spirit Visions, which is the best of best of my first 3 CDs. And also with that is some of my newer stuff. Wolf Tracks is one of them. I have one of my Egyptian pieces that I do. The only song I ever sang on my CDs, like ever. And then, of course, I have the one song I did a compilation with my dear friend Devara Thunderbeat.
Oh, yeah.
And it's called Sacred Mountain. We did that together. And so that's a great CD. And then the other CD, the last one is called Galactic Odyssey, which is my brand new one. It's been out about 7 months. It's been out. And that I did for me because I wanted to show people my composing skills. I aspire to be like Hans Zimmer because that's one of my favorite composers, modern day composers. So it has a lot of symphonic, orchestral kind of stuff. I created it for like film scores, movies, documentaries. Each one, you're in a different movie when you're listening. And it in 3D surround so that you can hear it through time and space through your head. A lot of you already walk out there normally like that, but you know. So, but it's a great CD. And the song that I was asking for was, it's called Soaring High. Okay. Soaring High is the name of the song. So she did get the songs I sent her then?
Well, I haven't talked to her, but she's going to put it in at this point. She's going to stick it in so people can know what we're talking about in terms of your music, because your music is basically inspired, correct? Because that's what I'm lecturing on when I get there. I'm going to do the music connection to rock music, to classical music, and I wrote a book on that. So my question would be to most musicians is, where does the music come from? How's it influenced?
Yeah. We're going to be at the same event.
Yeah.
Maybe you can drive me on stage and I can, talk with you about some of that, because before I did any of this, before any of this was on my radar, I was a lead vocalist in several rock bands back in the day, playing in several different bands, opening for the likes of Molly Hatchet, the Romantics, people like that, in several different bands I played in. So I was always a rock musician. That was my go-to my whole life. But God had another plan, apparently. And But in a lot of ways, musicians are the ones that are sort of passing the message along. Like I always refer to the Moody Blues, who say that they remember before they were born, and that they were told they're going to be musicians and they were going to put lyrics into songs, and that was their role. So I guess it would make sense that it's same as the soul contract, that's part of the raising of the consciousness, and that's part of your role as a musician, correct? I always say, and this is what I believe to the heart of me, Because people have asked me, well, why are musicians here? What do you think they're about? Why,
Yeah.
what's their
Good
role?
question. Yeah.
And I tell them, I said, we have one role, and it's the greatest role that you could ever have. And that role is, we as musicians take on all of the pain and suffering of the world within ourselves,
Wow.
and we transmute it within ourselves, and we create something beautiful out of it so that you all can live your life, and so you can survive here because you have that beautiful music that soothes you. So we take in all the pain of the world and we transmute it into something beautiful. That's what we do. We,
Beautiful.
out of chaos, we create beauty. We're very good at that, and that's what we do. And we all have a poetic heart. You have to be able to write those
Yeah.
lyrics.
Yeah.
We have a poetic heart, and music is an etheric thing. It is something that has been here from time immortal. And I think more of that song is coming. Even Mother Gaia has her own songs. You hear them every day through the wind, through the beautiful birds you hear, through the beautiful brook that's running through a mountainside. That's their song.
Wow.
And they sing in harmony together and create an amazing song as well. So each one of us musicians, our job is to take that chaos and turn it into beauty. A lot of them out there like to take beauty and turn it into chaos, but I guess apparently they're doing well with that. I don't know. But most of
You're
us,
fourth generation, right? You're fourth generation musician.
yeah, it's interesting because my father, his name is Jody Welsh, and my father is a country western musician.
Wow.
And he's played with like Porter Wagner, Buck Owens. He knew Dolly before Dolly.
Yeah.
And there used to be a show on TV called Hee Haw. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh sure, sure.
Okay, you remember the twins, the twin brothers that
Yeah,
played
yeah,
on there?
yeah.
I can't remember the Hager brothers. That's it. They opened up for him, if that tells you anything.
Wow.
And then my pop, before he did country, he had one of those little doo-wop bands, you like boom, 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 doo-wop, the big,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
the big Elvis Buffon hair,
yeah.
and he had all of that, and they're called the Impacts, and they made quite a ruckus back then. But he's been a musician his whole life. He plays about 12 different instruments,
Wow.
the 12th being Native American flute, because I inspired him to play native
Wow.
flute. He's getting pretty good. I'm starting to get some competition now. Getting a little worried,
Beautiful.
a little worried. But my pop is 80 years old now, still has a band.
Yeah.
It's a kind of a rock, jazz, blues,
Is that right?
Latino,
Wow.
country fusion kind of thing. I think it's because the younger kids he plays with, he caters to what they want to play.
Yeah.
My stepmom plays bass for the band.
Is that right?
Yes. So I have this really cool Partridge Fam thing going.
Wow.
So, but that's where, he went the country way and I went the rock side.
Yeah.
And my father has another child from another woman as well, and from a different marriage,
Yeah.
which is my half brother. And myself and my family and his family, we're the only two that became musicians.
Wow.
None of our other siblings. So we totally took after him and that.
Wow.
So,
And mine was exactly the opposite. My whole family was musical, and I had no musical background or interest whatsoever. And I got dragged into it by a message from an alien that said the message is in the music, and this was a message that was given to me. And it hadn't been for Neil Young, who grew up in the city where I live in, I never would have got in. It was like Neil Young is involved, and I got dragged into this thing, and now I'm doing my second book on music, and it goes into what we were talking about, this inspiration, like where does music come from, why is it here, these kind of things, because musicians are very right-brained people. They're very creative people, almost like your wife with the when you get the art and the music, and let's get into some of the other stuff you do. Like you do channeling and you do healing, which a lot of experiencer people also are involved with.
Well, I'm gonna digress for a second because I tend to, I'm like a quadruple Virgo. I'm a very intellectual person, so I'm like going all over the place all the time.
Yeah, so am I.
I'm like a long-haired Jeff Bloom. Okay, it's like, well, and the thing with and we're checking, and it's really interesting, So, but going back when I told you about my book, just for a second, I want to give you the dynamics of the way it was created. Okay, I would come here to Sedona and I'd be guided to drive out to like Boynton Canyon or some sacred area. Mainly, though, before Dry Creek Road, there were never any houses out there. It was as far back as you could see. You could just see desert and beautiful mountainscape.
Yeah.
And I'd be guided to go back there. And so oftentimes a thunderstorm would come in, or I just feel this massive energy coming into the car. And I'll never forget it. My two cassette tapes, show my age, my two cassette tapes that were my go-to was Constance Dimby and John Siri. Those are two I would listen to as I was doing this. And I had a pen and paper. The energy would hit me and I'd just be like, just start writing and writing and writing and writing, which became my book. And there were different masters that were giving messages to the world. Okay, so that was kind of cool. So that's the dynamic with that. Now, the other question you asked was about music, right? You were saying, like you play, right? What do you play?
No, I have no background in music whatsoever. I only got involved because I got this message. And my mother was a church organist for 40 years. My sisters play in a group, a religious group. My father built theater organs, totally, and I had no background in music. That's why when I first got the message, that it was called a group called the Guardians, and the Guardians have a message for you. The message is in the music. And I said to the guy who gave it to me, who was Chris Bledsoe, I said, Chris, you may be talking to the wrong guy, because I don't do music. I mean, I have no interest. And it was because Neil Young was involved. Because I mean, I live in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, it's the coldest major city in the world. No, even people in Canada don't want to visit Winnipeg. It's like a place nobody wants to go. And that's one of the things we're famous for, is Neil Young grew up here. And so when that came, I go, he was involved in this UFO thing with music. And that's why I looked at it, and I suddenly discovered stories like yours and stories like all these musicians, and realized there's this really weird thing going. It's not just music. There's these sources coming from the outside, and the message is in the music, that this is part of what this is all about. And so I sort of got dragged into it. Now I'm doing a second book. My father is now dead. My father would roll over in his grave laughing if he heard that I'd written a book on music, because it was like, no, they put me in piano lessons for maybe 3 or 4 months, and they said, oh, forget it, it's a waste of time. And I went back to playing football and baseball.
It's really interesting you say that, because see, when they came to you, it was never for you to start creating music. They were coming to you with the message so that you would get the message out, the message of the music. Yeah. Let me give you an example. The cabals, the Illuminati, they know that. And so they put their little subliminal things in the music. They change frequencies, so it becomes a darker frequency. They know damn well. Can I say that? I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
They know damn well that it affects people in a negative way, and that's exactly what they want. It's like it's almost a hypnotic thing. Why do you think they have all the lights and the dancing and everything? Because, you're just like mesmerized. But as you're mesmerized with this, they're throwing out all kinds of little devil symbols and stuff that you don't see, because you see everything else like this. Yeah. But your subconscious catches every single bit of what it sees, and then it gets ingrained in them. So the message being in the music is same too with those of the light, same too with those that are doing it for the right reasons. And it comes through our voice as well, in the intonations, and the way we say things, and the way we speak, and the way we look at the audience when we're playing. There's many, many things that go with that. And the really incredible thing to me that shows on a planetary level how much everything is evolving to a higher plane is the fact that all these musicians that have had extraterrestrial contact, that have had those angelic things happen to them, are now coming out. Yeah. And they're now bringing it not only to their music, but they're speaking about it. Yeah. Before it was taboo, before they wouldn't, and now they're coming out of the galactic closet, so to speak. And now they're starting to talk about it and be more forthcoming, whereas before they weren't. They were just very, I'm not going to say nothing because I have a contract. I'm not, So now it's like, damn the torpedoes. Because we absolutely, right now in this timeline, we're in a war of souls, and people need to realize that. That's a real and valid thing, called demonics, whatever, you have family that was around church. And that's a very real thing. But see, here's the thing, the theory that I have. What makes it very real? and all the cabal, they know that. That's why they throw things at TV at you. They understand the power that is wielded in groups of people and the consciousness of the groups of people. So if you have all these people thinking one thing, thinking, oh, this is going to happen, and they're all thinking it at the same time, it may have never happened, but because they introduce that into the consciousness of the energy, it manifests out of thin air.
Yeah.
And we do that all the time. We manifest. You see what's going on now with this coronavirus thing. I'm not worried about the virus because he that is in me is greater than is he that's in the world. But what I am concerned about are the sheep that start stampeding. Okay. Yeah. And I don't mean to call them sheep because I love my people, but when you start acting like that, you are that. Okay. Don't be blinded by that. You know, there's because, and it doesn't help when you have the mockingbird media coming out and perpetuating that and making it even more grandeur. I mean, do you think the Black Plague was coming or something? And just,
yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And it's not even nothing like that. I mean, it's like Y2K out there. Go to the store, shelves are empty. Like the zombie apocalypse has now arrived.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and it's because of fear. And the one thing that the dark feeds on is fear.
Fear.
So there are many tools in their chest that they utilize against us, but there are also many more tools in our chest that we use to counteract that. We're very good at counteracting things.
And we're using love, right?
And the love is 100%. That's like the main thing. You know, there's no greater deed on this planet than to be in service of others, period.
Yeah.
Period. That's why I do what I do.
And so are you optimistic about the battle that's taking place? Are you optimistic that we can win this?
I think we've already won. They've already lost. They just don't know it. That's what I think. Beautiful. I feel like back in Japan, just before they made the treaty, right? You had all these little obscure islands all over the place, right? The treaty was signed, but no communication to these other, you know, islands that the treaty was signed. So they're just like, you know, fighting a war, not realizing the war's over. That's what I look at. All of these little soldiers, they don't know the war's over. They're still skirmishing and still fighting for power, not realizing that their power has already been taken away from them. But they still, like a cat trying to hold on to a couch when you're pulling it off the couch, you know, they don't want to let go. It's very evident to me, like if I was to take a scale and to scan the earth and see the balance, those of the light are really winning. And I know you wouldn't think that, but you think about, like, I'm not really into politics, I'm not a politician, but there's certain factions in politics right now that has literally taken down a lot of individuals that are just really, you know, not good people, not good people at all. And it's become a wave that's starting to wash over the whole planet. You know, people are starting to wake up, and that's what it's about, waken. You know, that's what our job here as a Starborn is, to wake others, you know, the ones that are sleeping still. But it's hard because this place is very hypnotic. But
if there's a soul contract, you came at this time in this place in the middle of this mess, you knew that you were coming into this, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
That's why they say there are many called, few are chosen. You know, I think they have books out there on that. But, you know, many are called, few are chosen, and many, it's so difficult, they just duck out. You know, they're off themselves and they're out, you know. Not realizing they have another contract waiting for them at the end of the tunnel. Going, oh, you thought you were done. No, I'm sorry, you know. That's not going to happen. I'm still shaking my fist saying, this is not a vacation. You lied, you know. But you know what? I'm really, truly honored to be here. Just as much as any knight would be honored to do a duty, I'm honored to do what I'm here to do. And I feel really blessed to be able to do what I do. You know, literally what you think is your life and what the Creator says is your life are two totally different things. And so many people run around trying to figure out what's the secret of the universe, why are we here, what's going on. It's really simple. The secret of the universe is follow your bliss. If you follow your bliss, you're following your heart. If you follow your heart, you're following what Creator wants for you. Simple as that. You can't get any more simple than that.
I'm,
But
I'm
they
glad.
tried
I'm
to,
glad you said that. You're one of the few people I've talked to who actually, I thought I was one of the few people that sort of figured that out. Well, Bashar, the channeler, says you follow your highest excitement, and people
yes,
don't really realize this manifestation thing is how to actually guide your life and to do this. Where, as you say, you're sort of chasing the toys and you're the illusion. And
absolutely.
I'm really proud to talk to you in terms of that you understand this basic
I
principle of
do.
how it works.
Well, I've been, been here a while, and I've learned a few of the ropes and the ins and outs and stuff like that. And the one commonality I think, Grant, that's happened with all of us, every single starborn that's woke, is no different than a superhero, no different than Neo from the Matrix. The same common denominator: trauma. Every single one of us went through trauma in our life. And we took that trauma and we ingested that trauma, and it made us stronger. And it also woke that little X-Man gene inside of us. That trauma is what wakens you to of who you truly are, you know.
It's amazing. It's another point that I talk to Sinead about this all the time, about this idea, and people don't realize this. They think there's like good things and bad things. I say no, there's experience, and I've talked a lot about trauma. That you see this as being a trauma, and
Mhm.
actually it's like what wakes you up. It's what gets you on the road. And there's always this
Catalyst.
trauma thing, and when you look at it a completely
Yeah.
different way than most people do, they say no, I want all the good stuff. But when you got the good stuff, your ego is going, "Oh, I'm so cool," and you're not learning anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's those events that shift you, and you're one of the, as I said, you're one of the few people who's picking up on these things. And I actually talk about this at great length in a book that I've got coming out called Contact Modalities. This whole trauma idea.
It's nothing but a catalyst. It's always
Yeah,
been that.
yeah,
Okay. I'll give you an example. I'm not going to say any names or anything like that because I don't want, the people involved to be upset.
yeah.
But it happened. But I had a situation where I was supposed to be married, and it didn't happen because my best friend pretty much stole my soon-to-be wife, and it was just very tragic,
Yeah.
hurtful thing. Probably the most painful thing I ever had to deal with my whole life. But then I took that pain, like we do as musicians. I put it inside, and I saw it for what it was, and I ended up thanking her. And she's like, "Why are you thanking me? What? Why would you thank me for something like that?" I said, "If that had not happened and you had not been that catalyst, there would be no such thing as Stands with Bear. I
Wow.
wouldn't be doing the work I'm doing for the world.
Right
I
on.
wouldn't be doing who I am. My music would not be heard globally right now.
Yeah.
And I would not be the person I am today, that I love and I cherish who I am, because this to me is my gift to the world. That's what's in me, what comes through me is my gift. Okay. The greatest gift that the Creator ever gave you is a breath of life put into you. What you do with that life is your greatest gift back. That's what I believe.
Beautifully said.
Okay. And so I told her, I said, "Thank you." And she's like, "Why are you thanking me?" I said, "Because I understand this is bigger than both of us. This had nothing to do with you and I. This had everything to do with becoming a catalyst for me to do what I'm here to do. Sometimes God allows bad things to happen to good people to become that catalyst." And you find every single person that had that trauma in their life, and they look back into that trauma in their life, it's all the common denominator. It was a catalyst to
Yeah.
something better. If you have friends that fall away from you, so be it. That means a whole bunch more are ready to come. It's because your vibrational frequency has gotten to the point where they just don't gel with you anymore.
Yeah.
That's why you see so many people in relationships are sure they're even kill. Everything's awesome. The sex is great. The camaraderie, the linkage between them is great. But then one person gets woke, and then they begin to raise their vibrational frequency. And the other one is just here where they were.
Yeah.
They choose to be in comfortability, whereas the one chooses to rise and wake. Now, the energies, they're not even melding with each other anymore. So inevitably, they part ways.
Yeah.
It has to be that way.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing. It just means that you guys have different things to do. You have different contracts that you have been asked to fulfill. And you're just not, you were there to help each other in that situation, whatever it was, for however long it was. to awaken certain things. And then if you were meant to be together, you'll continue to be together, you do your work. If you're not, and that other one is there waiting for you, that's at that vibrational frequency where you're at now, so be it. So I've seen so many of my clients who friends just, they're like, why are my friends passing away, or, not crossing over, but why are so many just, walking away from me? It's because you don't resonate with them anymore.
Yep.
And then we also have the whole, there's something that couples with the Mandela effect with that as well, that I'm noticing, that people, because the two timelines are so close to each other, it's just a little askew, just a little tiny bit askew. So the same people that are in that same timeline are still there. So now the friends that have been your friends for 20 years and all of a sudden walk away, it's because they're not the same friends you had in the other timeline. They're in this timeline, and you see them as a friend that they were in the other timeline. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
I know. So
there's actually an example I point out. Like, apparently the figure is that if people who've had near-death experiences, 75% get divorced, or that they quit their jobs, and it's because you're vibrating differently, or this idea that
exactly.
Inside the UFO community, there's a lot of marriage breakup, that people
Yep.
have a very hard time because you suddenly realize that you've changed, you've had these experiences, whatever they are,
Yep.
and suddenly you realize you're on a different train than the person that you started the journey with. And
I really think it's a breakdown of traditions and stuff like that too, because I think, the universe is very wise in structure and that, and I don't think it's ever been, I love Christ and love God with all my heart, but I don't believe in religiosity.
yeah.
I have a lot of Christians get mad at me about that. And I just simply tell them, Jesus didn't walk around saying I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
Buddha didn't walk around saying I'm a Buddhist. And most people, and even in Buddhism, they tell you this is not a religion, it's a way of life. That's not the religion, but they're being, coined as it's a religion, and to them it's not. But I believe it's never been about religiosity. It's never been about tradition. We created all that,
Yeah.
It's about a one-on-one relationship with you and the creator. When you have that one-on-one relationship with your creator, he's your pal, he's hanging out with you, he's telling you what you need to do, what you need to get done. And you don't have all this other rhetoric binding you to your purpose,
Beautiful.
So I'm probably going to get a lot of flack from your people.
No. People have heard me say this.
You non-Christian,
what it is.
by God,
And sometimes people have to hear what it is, and they may not catch it. And if they don't catch it, it's like sometimes they say the message is not meant for everybody. It's only meant for the people that it's meant to hear. And so we always try to convert people, and we want to try to save the people who aren't ready at this point. They're on a different timeline. They're on a different mission. And you have to have empathy, because I say, and you may agree with me, that if I hadn't had the experiences I had, I'd be just as stupid as the rest of them. It was because I had the experiences I had that I'm the person I am today.
Exactly. I love that saying, that religion are for people that feel they're going to go to hell. Spirituality is for those of us who already went through that. I remember I was, like in 81, I used to travel. I was just out of high school. I was traveling with a group of about 50 kids in sales, and we were selling magazines door to door all over the United States. One of my first jobs, knocking doors, going, "How you doing? I'm in a contest," and just selling magazines. And I remember being in Florida when they had the great riots down there, people throwing garbage in the street. It was crazy. But we would knock on doors anyway. People were going, run down the street. We're just, And I walked up to this really amazing African-American woman. She's in her, rocking chair. She has a corncob pipe. I'll never forget it. She's rocking back and forth. She's watching me, not door to door. And she's just watching me as I'm walking. And then I come up to her and she goes, "Child, you in the wrong place at the wrong time." She said, and I quote, she said, "What your white bread ass doing up in here? You do not belong up in here. What you doing here?" And then I just gave my spiel. I'm in a contest. And by the time I was done, she bought 3 magazines from me.
Wow.
She leaned back and she's going, "You know what, child? I swear to God, you could sell ice water to the devil." So I'll never forget that. It's little things like that in your life that are markers that make you realize there's more to you than you realize.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's easier looking back than it is looking forward. When you look back, it sort of all makes sense as to why that happened, why that happened. And yet we get confused. And then when you have a situation where uncertainty comes in, then you replace it with fear, because that's what the world preaches to you.
Yeah. I love what Lightstar said once time, because it was very, very poetic and very telling. She goes, the first 40 years of your life, you're dealing with your parents and everything like that. The next 40 years, you're unraveling all the crap that your parents put you through psychologically. You know, so it's like, that's pretty funny, because it's true. You know, the first 40 years we're just living our life. The next 40 years we're unraveling everything, trying to get back to where we were, you know.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, if you take every ethnic child on the planet and put them in a room together, just little children, like 2, 3 years old, they'll play for hours and hours and hours and not have one problem with each other.
You're right.
Introduce the parents, chaos.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's just, what's wrong with that? That's just, you know.
And you preach that it's almost like where, higher beings will interact with children. It's like the whole thing with, the people who've had encounters since they were children. I always say the reason they do that is because when you're 25 years old, it's a total waste of time. You got to get them when they're little kids who will play with anybody and talk to anybody, and they're open and they don't have all sorts of biases that they've been taught and prejudices and stuff like that. So I think it's a key point that you point out with these little kids. So
you would have loved the last conference at the Sedona conference, because when I was up on stage, I was telling people, I said, why is that? Why are we so indoctrinated? I mean, why there's so much division between us? Why do you think that is? Yeah. I said, by design. Every single morning, prison bus shows up to pick you up, takes you to prison for 8 hours a day, takes you back home, and does that for 12 years. They took out music, art, they took out PE, and they took out social studies.
Wow.
That is what the problem is. Took out PE because they don't want little Spartans that are going to rebel one day. They took out music and art because they don't want free thinkers. Like Rockefeller said, we do not want free thinkers, we want workers. They want worker bees is what they want. And then, of course, we already know, we see it today of what's happening, why socialism and everything like this is so welcome, is I understand people have a balance that they want. They see like the Netherlands and go, well, it's working for them. They have their problems too, and even you guys have your problems. We'll have our problems. But what happens is they take it too far, like it becomes almost like a militant thing. So adamant about having this in this country. And like said, I'm not a politician, but you have the factions that are like, because they took out socialism, they don't know about Mao, and they don't know about Stalin, and they don't know about, they talk about the Holocaust that happened, over 6 million Jews that were, perished. Well, half the population think that's a hoax. My girl's Jewish, and her family, grandmother's mother was in all that, tattoos and all that. So yeah, it happened. But they're trying to rewrite the history like it didn't. And so I think some of these things need to be remembered, because it defines what we need to become, not who we become, but what we need to become. And it's not that. It's not that.
Yeah. But that's where you and I we should be leading in terms of, what the proper thing to think, and to have a higher evaluation of what life's about, and to bring down the information that you're getting from higher source, or from spirit guides, or from God, or wherever we're getting this material, that it's up to, the onus is on us to, who much is given, much is expected. We're there to put out our message against their message, and they're going to put out their message. And so it comes down to this idea of who in the end is going to triumph. And you say that we've already won the battle in terms of getting the message out there.
Yeah, because when we came here, the gift that we were given and the job that we were given is something that never been done in this timeline, or even in this universe. It's been done in other universes, but not here. And that is to take an entire planet, an entire species, and raise up the vibrational frequency to such a point where it becomes part of the rest of the intergalactic entire federation. And there is that. it does exist. You know, one of my dear friends, Alice, her best friend was Gene Roddenberry's niece.
Okay.
And I met her with her dog on the beach. We went and visited her in California. And I'm like, opportunity. So I asked her, I go, did your Uncle Gene ever tell you how he got his shows, the ideas? And she said, yeah. He said he would go to sleep at night, had a journal by his bed, and he would have all these dreams and he would jot them down and it became the show. So literally, the Galactics were showing him the chronological history of what's going on out there. Granted, it was, you know, Hollywoodized and embellished upon, but the gist of the stories of the Galactics of what went on up there. And why I believe that, look at what that show did to the world. Look at the people that it created in the world, rocket scientists, engineers. Now we do have warp drive. Now we do have this, you know, things. I mean, the communicator, the flip phones we used to have.
Yeah.
You know, so somebody had some serious knowledge about these things way before it happened. So people need to understand religiosity teaches you that we're it. There's nothing else out there, just us. In my religion, getting, you know, I'm a recovered Catholic, by the way. As a former Catholic, they teach you that we're the only one in the whole universe. So just us, nobody else. Never mind the rest of the universes. Never mind that the Milky Way, every little swirl you see, has about 30 planets inside of that little universe. We're the only ones. It said the Creator created all things, all the heavens, all the earth. You know, how soon we forget. And I always thought it was very arrogant to think that we're just, you know, you're it, that's it. I'd never believed that. And man, I drove those little nuns crazy when I was growing up. They thought I was like a demon child because I questioned everything. You know, like, why do I got to talk to Saint so-and-so to Saint so-and-so, Saint so-and-so to talk to God? Why can't I just talk to God? Whack, quiet, blasphemous child, right? Or if God said we should have no other gods before us, what's all these statues about? How come we got all this, you know, the whack, quiet, blasphemous child? Or how come we're kissing the preacher's hand? He's just a man. Whack, quiet, blessed. Oh my God, they hated me because I was like, it was in Kingman when I was living in Kingman and I went to a Catholic school and I asked those questions and I got, you know, punished for, you know, being the one that looked the other direction and not the way everybody else was, you know. That's a statement of my life, you know. You see all the sheep going this way, I'm like, peace out. And I go, you know, so
You've come up with some very wise stuff. I mean, I'm very impressed with you've got a lot of the same things that I've come from different angles and came to basically the same thing. So let's go back to the conference. The conference is next month in Sedona. It's whatever the date is. I'm not even sure what the date is. The 25th. It's the weekend of the last weekend. And you're going to be there. I'm going to be there. And let's go through your material, that Desta will link. So you have albums. You have.
If you Google StandswithBear, like 10 pages will pop up. You know, I'm like everywhere. I'm on Spotify. I'm on Pandora. I'm on iTunes. You can get my music at Google. You can go to my website. You can get my music directly from there.
We'll link that. And you do tours, like I always hear with natives that there's, it's almost like a circuit. You're moving around in sort of.
No, I haven't done that in a while. I just I do a lot of shows here. I got four shows a night that I do here in Sedona.
Is that right? Where's that?
I've been at the Wyndham Resort for about 8 years now.
Wow.
And now I'm working in Cornville at the Highland Resort there, and I'm playing a couple nights there. So I play on Thursday nights and Monday nights at the Wyndham, 7 to 8 p.m.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow.
And then I play at the Highland on Sunday nights and Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. to 8. So I'm doing 4 shows. Plus I'm doing events like what we have going on.
Yeah.
And just keeping very busy. And then we do sessions. My beloved and I both. We have our own separate sessions, and we have our ACT session, which is called Activational Co-Creation Therapy. And so we do it. We kind of like tag team, and so it's like you get both of us at the same time sharing our wisdom and what we do. I do techniques of healing that I don't think I've heard anybody ever do. But I didn't learn it from a book. I didn't learn it from people here. I learned it directly from my star family. They've been
Wow.
training me since I was a kid. They take me out in the astral. And it's called holographic DNA restructurization is what I do. And I literally pull out the energy and see the holographic image of the DNA spiraling in front of me, realign, reconnect, take away the debris. And when you infuse it back into the body, that person's life changes in amazing ways. Because you think about just like a car that collects oil and
Yeah.
you collect, after it runs for so long,
Yeah.
debris, and that debris begins to clog everything and screw up your car, right? It's no different than going through many past lives. You collect debris all along the way in every single one of those lives. So what I help do is get rid of all that debris, because that's first and foremost, because I have a galactic awakening package that I do. And the first thing I do is help clear the debris of those past lives. So then we can move forward, because I can't go anywhere if that debris is still holding you back,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so once we clear that debris, get rid of all that crap that no longer serves you, now you're a clean slate. And I use the liquid gold light in a lot of my healing, which is the most powerful light in the universe, by the way, because it's known as creator light. It's wicked powerful. It's just the liquid gold light energy. And you can visualize pouring into your body, visualize it coming into you, but then it doesn't become liquid anymore. It just becomes pure light, and it starts infuses through your whole body. It's a process that I go through with people. So I do a few things. Yeah.
Wow. Do you do that in person, or do you do that? Can you do that remotely?
I've done it in person. Mostly I do it like via Skype internationally. I do it worldwide. And I've done things also releasing. One thing that's real important is to release contracts that no longer serve you. Because if you can look at the body, it has like hundreds of tentacles to it. Each one of those tentacles has like a past life contract, situation, scenario, event, negative entities or beings that have attached themselves to you that you're unaware of. And I clear all those cords away from you. They fall away from you. And the really cool thing is, as each cord dissipates, it returns to you what once was yours. So literally in native way, we call it reclaiming your power. So that's not a native technique that I know of. I'm pretty sure our star family's native way did that. But it all goes back out of the shamanism, where they're using the sage to clear you. It's kind of like that. The sage becomes an energy that clears you also. But I use a violet flame of transmutation, and I clear away all those cords. And man, I got to tell you, people's lives change like crazy. I've had people hold up the mirror to them. It's like drop 20 years off their face. They're like, how's that possible? It's called the brie. You release all that crap, you release all that brie, you no longer have that weight on top of you, you know. So it's all about energy. The whole universe, it's just about energy. And that's what they've always taught me. Like you and I, we could exchange energy between each other, and you would feel that energy, because energy has no boundary.
Yeah.
It moves
Right.
beyond time and space,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I've suddenly started to learn that thing where, you pick up on people's energy and you can feed off it. I'm going to be interviewing your wife, Light Star.
Light start, yeah.
You and her must have one heck of a conversations, because I mean she's pretty
You
advanced
know,
as well.
our whole house, including her artwork, is like everywhere. And this is a magical little place. We got we got elven, fairy, dragon, gnomes. I mean, this place is just, our house is just very little magical place. And we love living in that. And, some populace out there would say living in the dream world. No, I say live in the dream.
Yeah. Wow.
you know
Wow.
and we have a really good time together, and we love doing what we do. We love we're truly honored to do what we are here to do, and being given the gift that we do. um, it's really nice when you don't have somebody lording over you, and you just have a really great boss, and you're your own entity, and you're doing your own work, and you're doing the creator's work. And that to me, there's nothing like it. I worked in corporate for years, been there, done that, got the shirt, burn it, not doing that anymore. But again, those are stepping stones. From the get-go, every single thing we do is a stepping stone to become the highest version of ourselves. And that's why I always say that's what I do for a living. I create Jedi and superheroes. I teach people how to circumvent the matrix and live the best life they deserve, you know, and it's all through energy. So they do the work with me through energy. They do the work with her. She speaks like 20 different galactic languages. She blows my mind every day.
Yeah.
Like,
I've never met her, and she already blows my mind. When I was reading her stuff, I was like, whoa, it's like, I gotta,
it,
because
it
that's,
is,
I was asked to interview you, but then when I picked her up, I go, like, oh, I can't miss this one. It's like, you know, I'm honored to have met you, and I've learned a lot from you tonight, and hopefully we can get together and spend some time in Sedona and
yeah, definitely.
learn some more. And I'm gonna have to have you on again because I know my partner's gonna want to talk to you as well now because she's
Awesome.
very into this kind of stuff as well. So we'll do another session with you, and I want to really thank you for being on, and I'm really honored that you brought the wisdom that you've got. I'm very, very impressed with what
Very
you've been
cool.
telling me.
Well, brother, it's been a real honor to speak with you. I really appreciate you asking me to come on board. Never did I ever say on my radar that I'd have one of the original OGs in this entire, I don't really like calling it new age, but let's just say this glorious movement towards a more beautiful world. And I just want to interject something real quick too, if I can, Grant.
Sure.
I want people to understand that are in this, that are doing this work, to understand the magnitude of what you are and what you're doing. Okay. Number one, you're here in this timeline. You're here right now,
Yeah.
and you get to witness everything that we've worked so hard to do. But here's the thing: there's no greater sacrifice than creating a utopic society. Well, we always make up words too, by the way, as Starborn.
Yeah. Well,
You ever do that? I like make up words like utopic. That should be a word.
That's right.
Like validify, validated, identified.
New world language, yeah.
So, you know, the greatest sacrifice that you all are making, and I'm talking to your audience right now and all those beautiful Starborn that are listening, I want you to remember the sacrifice you're making, and that is the utopia that we're creating right now isn't even for us. It's for a future stance. We are creating the bed and the new world for them. So you see, the great sacrifice you're doing is beyond measure and beyond words. Honor that. You were chosen for that. And one day there'll be great parades in the street honoring what you have accomplished here.
Exactly.
So smarten up. Be in the
Exactly
world.
what I've said.
Of the world. You're stronger than you know. Every single one of you are stronger than you know. Never let another one take from you your light. You're much too powerful for that.
Beautiful. I'm honored to be on the path with you, and whatever I can do to get your message out, I will do it. I'm very honored to have met you. Namaste.
You too, brother. Namaste. Thanks again so much.
Beautiful.